Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to install and get started with Meraki-CLI. I'll be performing the installation on a few different operating systems, so feel free to skip forward and find the one you want. I'll be following the instructions from the GitHub page. You can find them by scrolling down to the table of contents and selecting the operating system instructions that you want. We'll start with the recommended installation method for Windows, which is installing on Windows Subsystem for Linux. By using this, you can enable the tab auto completion feature, which helps out a lot when using the CLI. To install Windows Subsystem for Linux, first we're going to go look at features installed on Windows 10. Here we're going to enable the virtual machine platform and Windows Subsystem for Linux features. Click OK, and once prompted, restart the operating system. Once the reboot is finished, go ahead and log back into Windows. Once logged back in, open up the Microsoft Store application. In the store, we'll search for Ubuntu and select the latest version. Then we'll click the Get button to install it. After the Ubuntu installation is done, we'll go ahead and open it up. This should open a terminal window and give you an installation wizard for Ubuntu. The Ubuntu setup wizard should just ask you for a username and password. Once you put those in, you'll get a CLI prompt. Once we're at the Linux prompt, we'll go ahead and run sudo apt update to update the repository. Once that's done, we'll run sudo apt install python 3 pip to install the pip package manager. Now that the pip package manager is installed, we can install Meraki-CLI with sudo pip3 install Meraki-CLI. And now we're going to enable tab auto completion with sudo activate global python arg complete. Now that that's done, we're going to exit WSL and start it back up again. At this point, we should be able to run the Meraki command and see the help menu. And we can also type in Meraki, hit tab a few times, and see all of the options available to us at the command line. At this point, we're ready to plug in our API key. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to install Meraki-CLI natively on Windows. Keep in mind that a native Windows installation does not support tab auto completion. In order to support tab auto completion, you need to install on Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is the previous instruction. We'll start by navigating to the Python 3 download page. I'll download the Python installation package and run it. you'll want to make sure to check this checkbox at the bottom that says Add Python 3 to Path. And then continue with the installation with defaults. Once the Python installation is done, we can close the wizard and the browser. We'll open our command window and we'll run the command pip3 install Meraki-CLI. Now that Meraki-CLI is installed, we should be able to run the command Meraki and see the help menu. Now I'll demonstrate how to install Meraki-CLI natively on macOS. I'll start by opening a browser and navigating to the Python download page. I'll download the Python install files and start the installation. I'll go through the installation wizard, leaving everything default. Once the installation completes, it'll open a Finder window with a few files in it. You'll want to run both of the command files. Now you can close all your windows. Once Python's fully installed, we'll want to open up the terminal window by going to our Applications folder, into the Utilities folder, and running the terminal application. Once we have terminal running, we'll want to run the command pip3 install Meraki-CLI. Once Meraki-CLI is installed, we'll want to enable auto-completion by copying and pasting the command from the instruction sheet and executing it. Once that's done, we're going to close the terminal application and reopen it. Now we should be able to run the command Meraki and see the help menu. And we should also be able to put in the Meraki command and hit Tab to see all of our options. At this point, we're ready to plug in our Meraki API key. Once we're done with the installation of Meraki-CLI, we need to enable the Meraki Dashboard API in order to be able to start using it. To do this, we'll open up a browser window. We'll navigate to the Meraki Dashboard page, and we'll log in. Once we're logged in, we need to enable our organization for API access. To do this, navigate to Organization, Settings, and down at the bottom, check the box for Dashboard API access, and click Save Changes. Once our organization has API access enabled, we'll need to generate an API key for our own user. To do this, navigate to your profile, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and click the button to generate a new API key. Copy and save this API key in a safe location to use it later. Once saved, click the checkbox and the Done button. Once we've obtained our API key, we'll need to plug it into the Meraki-CLI tool in order to be able to use it. To do this on Windows Subsystem for Linux, first we'll open our WSL window. If you run a Meraki command without plugging in your API key first, for example, trying to get a list of your organizations, it will throw an error saying it does not yet have a valid API key. In order to set our API key on Windows Subsystem for Linux, we're going to use the export command to set an environment variable with our API key contained. Now if I try to list my organizations, it'll work. Setting this environment variable for the native Windows command line is a slightly different process. In this case, we'll open up the regular command line tool, and here we'll use the command set, but we'll use the same environment variable. Now we can run the same command again. Setting the API key in macOS is similar to WSL. Here we'll start by opening up our terminal application, and again we'll use the command export. Now we can run our commands. Once our API key has been entered, we can start running commands. To see the commands available in Meraki-CLI, you can either use the -H switch or run the command without arguments. For example, if I type Meraki and hit enter, I get the main help page. If I want to look at a list of organization commands, I can run Meraki organizations and hit enter. I can also see the help page for a specific command by running that command with the H argument. For example, Meraki organization get organizations. As we can see, this command doesn't require any arguments at all. Let's look at the help page for get organization networks. As we can see here, the organization ID argument is required. A good command to start with is Meraki organizations get organizations. This command gives you a list of all the organizations you have access to. Then we can list the networks inside one of those organizations. To do this, run Meraki organizations get organization networks. If we run this command without providing a network ID, it'll give us the help page for the command as a whole. In order to actually list our networks, we need to input an organization ID. We can also run some switches and arguments at the root command level to change what our output looks like. In this case, we'll switch it to JSON-based output rather than tabular output. To do this, use the J switch. We can also use the S switch to change which columns we see in the table output. Now let's run the get network devices command to get a list of devices in our network. Here we can see we have one 8-port switch in this network. If we want to get the configuration of the ports on this switch, we can run the command Meraki switch get device switch ports and give it the serial number. If we want to get the status of the switch ports instead of the configuration, we can run the command get device switch port statuses instead. If we want to change the configuration of a switch port, we can run the command update device switch port. As with any command, if you're unsure of the arguments it needs, just hit enter and it'll give you the help page. In this case, this command requires the serial argument and the port ID argument. Then we just list the attribute we want to change, for example, the VLAN ID. And now we can confirm our configuration was changed by running the get device switch ports command again. Thank you for watching this video on getting started with Meraki-CLI. Please leave a comment below if you'd like to see a future video on some of the more advanced features like config files, filtering, and pipelining. If you're having trouble installing it or getting it to work correctly, don't hesitate to open up an issue on the GitHub page. Thank you.